Are you looking for inspiration on a daily basis? Well, check out Deal to Heal Teas. With our inspirational teas, you're sure to find something that will inspire you. Just go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. That's Deal to Heal Teas. Get some inspiration in your situation. Wear inspirational tea and be inspired all day. That's Deal to Heal Teas at dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Hey guys, this is Earnest James, host of the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast, and I got a question to ask you. Could you buy me a cheeseburger? Better yet, could you buy me a value meal? Yes? Well, guess what? I don't need a value meal. However, for the cost of a value meal, you can support this podcast to keep us on the air. Just go to Patreon/Deal to Heal podcast and choose any one of the 3 tiers that's available. And if you just want to make a one-time donation, go to Cash App and make a donation to $E James, the number 418. Make a one-time donation to the Cash App, or again, go to Patreon to support this podcast and keep us on the air. Thanks in advance. Be blessed. Welcome to Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. On this podcast, my guest and I will discuss topics and ways to help us to heal in every area of our lives. I believe that everyone can live a life that is happy, healthy, and whole. So I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for tuning in. Let's get to it. Welcome to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and I believe that everyone can and should live a life that is whole, healed, and healthy. And therefore, I'm on a mission to help people to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problems, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thank you guys once again for joining me on the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. If you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe, listen, like, subscribe, and share our podcast on all of our social media platforms. Our YouTube page, definitely want to get that up. Our Facebook page, where we'll be able to communicate with you more in depth and share more information on events and things that we have going on. And also our Spotify podcast platform, so that you can listen to us on the go. All right. Also, stay tuned until the end. I'm going to tell you how you can win $100 from the podcast, and it don't cost you anything, right? So let's jump right in it. Today, just like any other day, we are blessed with a guest. And I was going to pronounce your name wrong. Wynette. I was finna say it wrong, so I had to catch myself. Miss Wynette, how are you doing?
I am doing well. And I hope you are too.
I am doing very well. First of all, let me say thank you for being here. You could have been doing anything else, anywhere else, but you are here with me and my listeners, and I definitely appreciate it. And I want you to put that up front.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So let's jump right in it. Why don't you introduce yourself to my listeners and tell them what it is that you do?
Absolutely. Hello. I am Wynette Richardson, the founder of Richardson Speaks, and I have actually been an educator for about 14 years in the public school systems and in the collegiate areas as well. I'm a motivational speaker and author. So I've just been living my life on purpose. That's exactly what I do.
Okay, all right. And so you jump right in it. We're gonna jump right in it because purpose was what I wanted to talk about first, first and foremost. And so when we're talking about purpose, a lot of times the hard part, or what may seem hard for most people, is to find their purpose. Mm-hmm. So when you're speaking with someone who may be at a crossroads of trying to find what it is that they were meant to do, what would be something, or how would you explain to them, you know, even the process of going about and finding their purpose? And also give us a little bit of your backstory to how you even found your own purpose.
Okay, very, very good, very good. Actually, I like to say this a lot, and it's taken a page out of my own book, right?
Mhm.
Literally and figuratively, actually. So I remember vividly, and I actually wrote about this in my book. As I was matriculating through college, I started out as an education major. And when I got to my student teaching, I was like, mm-mm, this is not for me. I do not want to teach. I do not want to do anything dealing with children. I'm just not. I'm not doing it. And so I had a conversation with my college advisor, and she looked at me dead in my eyes and she said, "Okay, you're going to be a teacher." And I was like, "Oh, no, I'm not." And so, long story short, I ended up teaching by default. And it was the feeling I could not explain when I walked into the classroom that very first time. I felt purpose. I felt like this is exactly where I'm supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be doing. And that was it. That was it. And I was like, no, this isn't it. I'm still questioning, second guessing myself. This isn't it. And I tried to get away from it, but it always came back to me. It always came back to me. And it was just natural. It was just natural. And so I shared that story because a lot of times we feel that we are unable to find our purpose, or we don't even know what our purpose is. However, a lot of times our purpose is that thing that we just can't pull away from, that thing
Mhm.
that comes so naturally to us that we still want to pull away from, and it just draws us back in. It doesn't always feel good,
Right.
but it's that thing that we can't even describe how it really feels because it's just so natural. That's our purpose, because our purpose is a part of our gift. And so when we are gifting someone, it's just a natural thing that we do because it's just a part of our heart that
Right.
we give. And so that's how we can find our purpose. It's not easy and it doesn't always feel good,
Right.
but that's how we can connect to our purpose.
Okay. So oftentimes I share a couple years ago, because this has been a journey for me,
Right.
also even to get to this point. And over the last year or so, I've really got into personal development and
Mhm.
working on myself and getting to know myself in different
Right.
ways, in this season of my life. I'm 46. I made 46 this year,
Okay.
and so just in this new season of my life, like, okay, who are you? The kids is grown and doing their own things, and you're finding yourself in this new space with new more time on one hand, as far as not so much worried about the children, because the children are young adults now, so they have a more taking on more of their own responsibility for themselves,
Right.
and but now you have this new place to where you're looking at yourself like, okay, who am I now? you know I
Absolutely.
had my first child when I was 25, 25 or 26. Like I
Hmm.
said, I'm 46 now,
Right.
and so like now it's a whole new person. And so when
Right.
you and even in your relationships and your marriages, you find yourself at this new crossroad, and
Right.
you're looking in the mirror like, okay, now 20 years later, who am I now?
Right.
And so I was going on this journey of self-development and learning about myself. And one of the things that God gave me pertaining to purpose, he gave me this quote, and it says, "The pain births purpose, and purpose births progress." and progress is the evidence that God is at work, right? And so the way that I kind of help people, because that was, he gave me that as an example of my own process that I went through, even to start the Friend to Fatherless Daughters, which is what led me to this, to even starting this platform. But that came out of the pain of going through some issues with my wife at the time, who was a fatherless daughter. And we started having some issues in our marriage because of the differences in upbringing. You know, she was from a single mother home. I was from a two-parent home with my mom and my dad. You know, and so just differences in upbringings and communities and environments, that when we came together, you know, at first, you know, always in the beginning, you're in the honeymoon stage, and so that's all good. But then when the reality of everything started kicking in, you know, we faced some challenges. And so out of that pain of those challenges that we faced, came the Friends of Fatherless Daughters page, right? Which was my second page, because my first platform was the Man Up program, which was
Right.
my male mentoring program. And I had probably had that for about a year or so. But when I started the Friends of Fatherless Daughters platform, it just took off. You
Right.
know, I got
Right.
invitations, people was calling me, and I'm like, okay. And so with that progress, with that process came, you know, along with that, what God gave me was the pain births purpose, which was the purpose, and then the purpose births progress, and the progress is the evidence that God is at work. So since the progress says start kicking off, I'm like, that must be God at work. Let me ride it, you know. And so here we
Absolutely.
are. And so I try to explain to people that even finding that purpose in your pain, it's not necessarily, doesn't even necessarily have to be your pain, but it's just a pain that you feel strongly enough about that you want to do something about it. You know, and so that's
Absolutely.
why, you know, you have people that feed the hungry when they may not have never been hungry. You know,
Right.
people that,
Right.
you know, have a heart for children, and they might not even have children. You know
That's
what I'm
it.
saying? But it's a pain that touches you in a place where you want to do something about it. You want to make a difference. And
Absolutely.
so that's how we kind of find our purpose. That's how I explain it.
Yes, yes, yes. And that's actually like, and you said a lot of things that were like so key in that purpose, right? Um, a lot of times, mm, all the students that I've ever taught, for the most part, had different lives than I did, right?
Mhm.
And so I didn't necessarily experience what they experienced, but I was able to understand their pain. So I taught from a different perspective. And as my life continued to evolve, you know, my purpose is still there, but it's being elevated to another level, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And so, and it had to elevate because of the pain that I am going through, right? And what I've gone through has taken my purpose to another level. Um, because sometimes when you only have four walls, right, you can only do but so much. And so education is vast, it's large, it comes in all different forms. And so even though my purpose is still educating, it just looks a little differently now because of the pain that I'm enduring and have gone through to be able to help the students on a different level.
Right, right. And I know that one of the things that you had said, when you had responded to my invite to be here, was
Mhm.
that your philosophy on education is building a rapport, which creates a safe space for education and transformation to take place. So explain a little bit about that, and why is that so important, um, when it comes to not just your students, you know, finding that transportation. I was gonna say transportation, the transformation, but also people who you talk to, and even your audiences when you're speaking as a speaker.
Yes, absolutely. So one of the things that I've realized in life is that in every season of our lives, we have to transform. And if we think about it from uh, a literal sense, right now we're in summer.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where you are right now, but it's been hot where
Mm-hmm.
I am. Right. And so, and it actually reminded me, I wore jeans the other day. Right. I was like, oh, I'm going to be inside all day. I'm going to wear jeans. It was like 95 degrees. The humidity was probably like at 100. I was hot because I didn't dress for the right season.
Right.
Right. And so, when our seasons change in our lives, some of the tools that we had from last season, it may work, but we need to change the head of the tool so that it can actually
Mm-hmm.
operate the way that it needs to operate in that season. And so, what am I saying? So, when we go from season to season, we have to transform our lives for that season. And I always start with my students in the classroom day one, day two. I need to know who's in my classroom. I need to know you by name. I need to know some of the things that you like. I need you to, I need you to understand that I'm here for you. I want to help you in any way that I can, but I can't do that if I don't know who I'm serving.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for a transformation to take place, we have to get to the root of what it is that we want to change, that thing that we want to learn, that person that we want to become. It's already inside of us, but we need for it to actually transform. And so, when I speak to my students, we always start with where we are. And I always have them to write something so that we know where we're going, so that they can see their own transformation happen in
Mm-hmm.
the classroom. And it helps me to be able to teach them the way they need to be taught. And so when I speak to different audiences, students or adults, I like for us to start with a mindset, because if we do not start with what we're thinking and how we're thinking, then we are unable to move forward into that transformation in which we want to become. And so, in my book, The Transformation Journal, Transforming Words into Reality, a lot of times we speak, oh, I want to be a millionaire, or I want to do
Mm-hmm.
this, or I wish I had, or I thought I did this right. But all those things, it we want it, but sometimes we don't have the right mindset to go get it.
Right.
And when we shift our mindsets, when we transform those dreams that we're having, and excuse me, to the words that we speak and the work that we're doing, we can transform to those things that we speak. And I always share with people, it starts with the mind. I've been speaking for many years saying that I was a motivational speaker, but I wasn't ready to be a motivational
Mm-hmm.
speaker. But I had those dreams of becoming one, right? I just didn't have the mindset. And so my life had to transform many times before I got to that place to transform my dreams into a reality. And so I use my life as an example, because I don't want people to ever think that, oh, well, she read a book and she came up with this. Mm-mm. This is real life practice.
Right. Right. On the job experience.
And so I want, my transformation to be a tool to help somebody else, because at the end of the day, I already had what I needed inside of me. I just needed to shift on how I used my mind to transform my dreams into my reality.
Yeah, and I like what you said, because I've found, just in myself and my own story, and the people that I help and talk to, that a lot of times their biggest hurdle is to be able to look at themselves and evaluate themselves. first of all, starting with just self-worth, right?
Yes.
And then, once you actually build up your self-worth, then self-accountability,
Yes.
and I
Yes.
think that's a very big one, which people just taking responsibility for their own lives,
Yes. Yes.
and there are some situations that you may have been a victim of. There may be some circumstances and situations that that affected you negatively, but you can't always, or you can't continue to point at them things saying, hey, that happened to me, so now I'm this, or that person didn't do this for me, or
Absolutely.
did do this to me, and so now I'm here. At some point you have to look at yourself and say, okay, now that I am here, what am I going to do about it?
Absolutely.
What am I going to do to change? What am I going to do to take accountability and take responsibility for my own life to make my dreams come true? Because
Absolutely.
I believe, like you said, a lot of times we say we want something, and sometimes we just don't know how to get it. But then sometimes it's like we get a high off saying it. Oh, I want to be rich, and I want this, and I want that, and you feel so good saying it that you think you done did it. You
You're
know what I mean? And it's like, okay, it's not that you, not that you done said you want it. What are you going to do to get it?
right.
What are you going to sit down and count up the cost? As the Bible say, to see what it is that you want. What is it going to cost you? What is it going to take for you to get to do to be able to achieve those goals that you said that you want?
Absolutely. 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 And, excuse me, in this very moment of um, my life is transforming yet again.
Mm-hmm.
And in March of 2021, I lost my mom. My mom had been sick for a very long time, and she always bounced back, right? I mean, mom always bounced back. It was just one of those things. Oh, mom is sick. She's in the hospital. She's going to bounce back. I believed it, but she didn't. And so she passed away. And that was probably one of well, it's not one. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to experience, in my life. And my dad unexpectedly passed away 2 months ago. And well, yeah, 2 months ago. I literally talked to him Monday night, conversation normal, everything was normal. And Monday, it wasn't even 24 hours later, I got a phone call stating that my dad was not breathing. And just a year and a couple of months later, I lost both of my parents. My parents have been married all of my life, actually before, I was even born. So only thing I knew all of my life were my parents. And so it's definitely been a very transforming 2 years of my life. And not to mention, just like, I mean, my parents, yes, they passed away, but two of my aunts passed away, my mom's sisters. One passed away like right a month after my mom. Um, one of my aunts passed away Mother's Day weekend of this year, and it just my dad passed away a couple days after her. Like, he attended her funeral Saturday, he died Tuesday. One of my students was shot and killed. So I had a series of like close deaths. I actually counted them the other day. It was 7 people that I knew, and 2 of them were my own parents. My own parents, the people that birthed that created me, passed away. And so my life is yet again transforming. But this time, Ernest, is different. It's different this time because it's a transformation that time waits for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And you have a purpose that you have to fulfill while you're here. And so it has shifted my mindset again. you know what? You have to speak those things that you know that are already inside of you. You have to make sure that your dreams do become a reality, but because they were put inside of you when you were created. And so I look at life differently now because all the foundation that I had, if I were to fall, it's not there anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pick up. This has been a very rough week for me. I couldn't pick up the phone with mom. How do I go through this? Dad, I was a daddy's little girl and a mama's baby. I'm gonna be honest. I'm putting it out for everybody to know, So I can't call them anymore. And so as I embark upon this transformation, I have to think a little differently now. I have to understand that, hey, you've got to put in the work. Hey, you have to sit and understand what you're going through. You have to feel those feelings. You have to be able to allow those things to help you heal from what you're experiencing, because it could have took me out.
Mm-hmm.
It could have taken me out. I wouldn't be able to share my story with anybody else, but I'm still standing because I want everyone to be able to transform their dreams into reality. You owe it to yourself. And
Yeah.
I just want to help somebody along the way, that even in the midst of everything that you are experiencing, you can still transform your life to the life that you always dreamed that it would be.
And you know what? I'm first of all, my condolences
Thank you. Thank
for
you.
your losses.
Thank
And
you.
this is it's crazy because I've recently had this conversation with someone close to me, um, because we were talking, and and I know before we started recording, I shared with you that I had also lost my mom
Hmm.
a couple years ago, and like you said, you can't pick up that phone and make that phone
Yes.
call, and I was saying, sometimes it felt like it was last year or years ago. It's probably
Yeah.
been about 10 years, and
Yeah.
sometimes it feel like it's been 10 years, and then
Right.
sometimes it feel like it was yesterday,
Right.
and it just how that happens. But one of the things that so with my business, right, as a plat with my overall business,
Hmm.
right. So my business, I do several things: motivational speaker, I do the podcast, and then I do workshops and things like that. So one of the workshops that I'm going to start doing soon again, because I did it at one time, is a workshop called it's a bereavement workshop, and it's called Maintaining Your Faith During Your Mourning, right?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
Because in the season when my mom passed away, 3 years before my mom passed away, my mother-in-law at the time, who I was very close to,
Hmm.
um, passed away from cancer.
Okay.
But then fast forward 3 years after that, my mom passed away from cancer.
Hmm.
And so one of the things that in that program, what I teach is the blessings that come from death. And one of those
Mm.
blessings is purpose.
Hmm.
And if you already have purpose, then it's drive, right?
Mm.
And
Hmm.
so when my mom and my mother-in-law passed away, and I started going to bereavement myself, and I love that whole process to the point that I was like, okay, I have to do something. Again,
Right.
going back to that pain, which births that purpose. And so I started a nonprofit organization called Ann Christine. My mom's name was Ann. My mother-in-law name was Christine. So it's called
Okay.
Ann Christine Charities. And I started doing bereavement support.
Okay.
And so fast forward now, I'm a part of this forgiveness workshop, which is a virtual workshop that we do every quarter.
Okay.
Um, and so we just talk about forgiveness and things like that. But the young lady who was over it, she actually started it 3 years before I ever knew anything about it. Right.
Wow.
So she started it and she was, going on 3 years. And
Mm.
so then when we met, she told me the whole vision behind it and the whole story behind it was because of her heart for what she's seen as a rise in suicides,
Mm-hmm.
and people passing away. And so fast forward, she tells me about it. She tells me, the whole backstory, and we're getting ready to launch to where we start doing them every quarter because we was doing them. She was doing like once a year, and so
Okay.
we had this conversation, and I was a part of the first one this year, and she was like, "Well, what do you think about doing it more often?" And we're talking about it, and so we're getting right where we're about to go into doing this every quarter,
Okay.
and she get the news that one of her coworkers who she was close to committed suicide.
Oh my gosh.
And so, she's going, of course, going through her grief and everything at that
Yes.
time. And one of the things I was telling her, like I just mentioned, that sometimes death gives you that push that you
Mm-hmm.
need. Like, so we already had a mind to do it anyway, but now it just gave us that push that we need to really go for it. And like you said, even with the passing of your parents, and you thinking about it, that now it's like, okay, I got a job to do.
Yes.
I got something to do. Like it gives you
Yes.
that push to, what, to honor these people who I love so much. you know I don't want to let them down even in their passing. While I'm still here, I'm going to make a difference, and I'm going to press forward. And I think a lot of times, we miss that in that transition of our grief and everything. And then there's also another thing what I want to do, which was a another conversation that we had, is the collateral damage of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so there is collateral damage when it comes to purpose. And so if I'll just take myself for example, that when my mom passed away, that gave me purpose, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as for my purpose, it's like, okay, I'm gonna start this bereavement group and support group, and I'm gonna help
Mm.
people. Well, I got 8 sisters and brothers. They didn't get that. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
They didn't
Right.
get that. All they got
Yeah.
was the grief part of it,
Mm-hmm.
of mom being gone. So that was that collateral damage that they had to feel, even though it gave me purpose, it only
Right.
gave them pain. And a lot of
Right.
times we miss that, and we were having a conversation about it, and we just started thinking about people that we knew, and we even talked about Job in the Bible. You're like, Job, his whole family was collateral damage, just
Yes.
because the
Yes.
devil wanted to make an example out of him.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So, oh well, let me kill all his kids and take all his money, and kill his servants, and all of them was like, hey, we ain't got nothing to do with that.
Right.
What
Right.
I mean? So I've been really thinking about that lately, like, wow, the
Yes.
collateral damage of purpose, because there is some people that got to go along for the ride of your purpose, even though they don't get the blessing of the purpose, I guess, to say. So I
Absolutely.
was just thinking about that recently, and like, yeah, I think I might have to dive a little deeper into that.
And that's one of the things, like, I was actually having a conversation with someone about this not too long ago, and I was like, I, I can't always explain, like, on the days that it don't feel the
Hmm.
greatest, because there's those pieces are still there, like,
Right.
I mean, if I move the wrong way, I might step on that piece,
Hmm.
and sometimes, um I, it it has it I do have some of that residual collateral damage there. That's why I am in therapy.
Hmm.
And I my tribe. I have a tribe that's been there for me day one since my mom passed. They didn't even leave my side when my mom passed and when my dad passed. They were just right there even more. And so I like, some days I can talk about it, and the days where I'm feeling that residual, it, I really can't explain it to you. There's
Hmm.
nothing that I can really say, because it may not be transformational, because it's still there. Like, and,
Right.
and that's one of the reasons why I'm very vocal about this process, because a lot of times, um, it's really easy to revert back to our old ways, to our old habits, to our old
Mhm.
mindsets, to our old whatever when we are feeling that hurt and we're feeling that pain. Oh, it would just be so much easier if I just do X, Y, and Z.
Right.
And so that's why I I like to have these conversations, um, and being open about this process. Just it's not even it's probably not even for me, honestly.
Hmm.
You know, because even I know that our topic isn't about grief, but a lot of times we grieve over things, or we grieve over, those habits that took us so long to break, and we want to revert back to it. And then when we are having a hard day, we just kind of go back to it. Or, I mean, there's so many things that, and I love the way you put that collateral damage, that
Hmm.
those pieces are still there when we sometimes can have a moment or be in the moment. And
Yeah.
it's just so important to understand both aspects of it.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and
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 mm,
I wanted to, and I know you said that this wasn't our topic, but my platform, this whole platform, is to bring healing. You
yes,
know, and I know that grief is a uh, topic that we need healing in. You know,
yes,
and so I like to talk about it. And I'm
okay,
vocal about my experience.
hmm,
With my mom passing, because not only did I experience, of course, the grief of her passing, but that sent me into a deep depression because of other
hmm,
things that I was also dealing with at that
hmm,
time,
hmm,
which sent me to a point where I was having suicidal ideations.
hmm, hmm,
Thank God I didn't, attempt it
absolutely,
or
yes,
go forward with it. But just being able to talk about that, we're able to talk about grief, we're able to talk about suicide, we're able to talk about
hmm,
depression,
hmm,
which is things that we all deal with, on one day or another.
right,
And
right,
so we have to be able to freely talk about it, because
yes,
it's healing. Number one is it's healing for us to talk about it.
yes,
It's healing to have the conversation, especially with someone who can understand, what you're going through. And I
yes,
remember years ago, um, and I don't know if this was before. It had to be after my mom passed, because that's probably why I remember it so vividly. But I remember Bishop T.D. Jakes doing a sermon, and he was talking about when his mom passed away,
hmm,
and I think it was around Mother's Day or something like that. And people was telling him, I'm sorry for your loss, that your mom passed away, and he was saying, you saying you're sorry for me, but I'm sorry for you, because I know a pain that you yet has to feel.
yes.
Like I felt it, I'm dealing with it, I'm getting through it, but I know you have no idea. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's like you said you feel sorry for me. It's just like, I hope I don't have to feel sorry for you anytime soon. But believe me, it's like it's a pain that you can't, and like I said, I grew up with my mom and my dad. My
Hmm,
dad's still alive. My dad's still, in good health and everything, but there is a part of your life, I don't know, just part of your being that your mom holds in your life. Partly because there's a connection, because of course she gave you life, and
right,
then the nurturing, growing up and things like that.
right,
So there's always a special place for your mom, and so when you go through that, transformation of dealing with not having her
hmm,
around, it is different,
yes,
and
yes,
it's a day-to-day journey,
yes,
and I remember my brother telling me, is my baby brother, and this was maybe a year or two after my mom had passed away,
hmm,
and he was driving to my mom's house, which my dad was still there, and I think some of my sisters and brothers were still there, staying there at the house. And so he's driving to the house, and he pulls in the driveway, and the way that their house is set up, the driveway is right here, the house is here. There's a bedroom right there. That was my mom's bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
right at the corner.
Right.
And so he said he pulled in the driveway, and as soon as he pulled in the driveway, he just started crying and he couldn't
Yeah.
stop. So he literally had to sit in the car for like 5 minutes,
Yeah.
just crying. And it was just
Yes.
like I said, this part was like 2 years after my mom was gone already.
Yes.
And so that's just how grief is.
Yes.
You have to
Yes.
work your way through it, and
Yes.
sometimes it comes knocking, saying, "Remember me?"
Yes.
You
Yes.
thought you was done. Like, no, I'm still here.
Right.
What I mean?
And it's interesting that you said that, because I was actually I was telling my therapist, I was like, I was on such a great path with like grief, like the grief process with my mom. But when my dad passed, it knocked me all the way back to grieving.
Right.
And grief and grieving are two different things, and because they're two different things, that means sometimes you deal with both of them, right? And so it is a lot. And I think, and one of my sister and I were actually having this conversation just the other day. And one of the things, well, one of the first things that helps me, especially like on a day where it's really hard for me, is that I know that my parents are with the Lord.
Mhm.
They, and I'm not saying this because they were my parents, anyone that has ever encountered my mom or my dad or them collectively will say the same thing. My parents were amazing people. My dad's he was a deacon all of my life. My mom was a deaconess. I mean, they were servants. They were the willing workers. I mean, the willing workers,
Mhm.
I, I mean, I still actually have still pictures of it in my phone. My dad would send me pictures of the marquee, the church marquee, every time that he would do it. How does this sound? Is this good? What you think? Should I do something else? I mean, just really faithful people to anything they were connected to, and amazing parents and grandparents and great grandparents. And so that's the thing that holds me together sometimes. It's just knowing that they were good people. They loved people, and they were good stewards of everything that they had possession of. And so knowing that, it helps me to understand when I don't understand. Um, and knowing that their purpose had been fulfilled.
Mhm.
And even though it pains me, even if the shoes that I wear have many, 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 many miles on them, and they have many, 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 many days of pain and hurt, my daily prayer is just, Lord, help my unbelief when I don't believe and when I don't understand. Just help me to find that peace in knowing, um, because they were good people, and I
Right.
rest on that. They were good people. They had great hearts, and so that's the thing that really continues to help me, um, when I need that little extra nudge. However, it's also, it drives me, because if it weren't for them instilling some of the things that they have taught me and laying that foundation, I wouldn't be able to, you know, speak today or just even have this conversation. And
Right.
so the healing part is where I am, and I'm at the very, very, very beginning stages of it. I'm
Right.
probably, toggling between the angry part some days and the
Right.
healing part.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, truthfully, right?
Yeah.
But I know that healing is on the way, and I know that as I continue to, move forward, I will continue to heal. And like you're saying, listen, I don't wish this on anybody. So
Mhm.
don't feel sorry for me. It's not a feeling that I would ever wish on an enemy that I don't even have.
Mhm.
It's a
Yeah.
lot. And so that's why. during this process of my transformation, I know that the healing that I am going to receive from this is a healing that I didn't even know I needed. And I'm dropping the mic on that.
Right,
I
right.
didn't even know that I needed the healing that I am receiving right now. It's unfortunate that my parents had to be taken away, but it was also something that I needed in order for me to continue to really drive my purpose and
Mhm.
transform to who God created me to be.
Yeah, and I believe that there is a such thing as transference of purpose, right? And so you
Mhm.
talked about, your mom and dad being great people and active in the church, and they had a work to do, and
Yes.
they did that,
Mhm.
and so there was a transference of, okay, I can't even think of what the scripture is right now, but it says I finished my course,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
You know, and so now it's like, all right, I'm finished. So now I'm passing this to you.
Yes.
You got to keep this going. And
Yes.
so even with myself, when you said about the text messages that you have, still from your dad. So my grandmother was a pastor,
Okay.
and when my grandmother passed away, my mom became the pastor.
Okay.
And so years later, I did not of my home church, but me and associate minister, friend of mine, we started our own church,
Okay.
and I was the executive pastor. But whenever I go home to my home church,
Uh-huh.
right, and I go into church, they have my mom's picture on the wall,
Okay.
and so you walk into this place, which has its own set of memories, years and everything. And
Yes.
then you look, over to your left when you first come in, and there's this like chair that's right there where my mom used to always sit.
Oh
So you
wow.
come in the
Mm.
door, you automatically look to the right.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because
Yes.
the chair is there, and it's like part of you be hoping that she's over there. You
Right.
know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
Again, it's a day at a time. You know what I
Right.
mean? So you come
Right.
in and you look over like, oh, okay. So she's not in the chair,
Right.
but then you look up and there she is on the wall, and the smile that she has and the look on her face, she's just kind of
Right.
smiling at you, and it's like, yeah, like you have a job to do,
Absolutely.
and then again, it's like I finished mine, but you have to keep going. You have
Absolutely.
something to do, and I always say, if you're still here, you ain't finished. You know what
That's
I mean?
right. That's it.
If you're
That's
still
it.
here, you ain't finished. So, when God take those, and that's another thing that I always say about people, because a lot of times people say, why do God always take the good people? And I will say, because they were ready,
Right.
and
Mhm.
it's like, oh, this person did this and that, and he should have took them, and they're so evil. Yeah, but he's giving them time to get it right.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? He's giving them time to get it right.
Yes.
Just like we're still here, so that
Yes.
means we must need a little more time too. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
it.
And so he takes those who he chooses who are ready, and that transference of purpose goes to us because we still need time, okay,
Yes.
and we still have time.
That's
So it's
it.
like, okay, you got a job to do. You
That's
need to
it.
be on it. And so, Miss Wynette, I'm so happy that you took out this time to be on, and I think I probably admire or appreciate this part of the conversation more so than the beginning, because is not a conversation that I've had. Well,
Right.
it's a different conversation because
Right.
I did have a young lady on talking about suicide and grief because her
Okay.
son had committed suicide.
Okay. Okay.
But this is a different
Right.
grief,
Right.
right?
Right.
And unfortunately, it is a grief that unless we go first, a lot of us will have, all of us will have to endure,
Yes.
and so I appreciate having the conversation with you. I think it's some healing in it, and with us
Thank
just
you.
being able to talk about it,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
to give a voice to the emotions, give a voice to the process,
Hmm.
and for those that listen and those that hear it to know that, you know, yeah, it's going to be hard. It's going to be some up days. It's going to be some down days, but it's a part of the process, you
Absolutely.
know, and
Absolutely.
we're still here because we still have a job to do and we still
Yes.
have a purpose to do. And
Mm.
this transformation is for the better, even though it may hurt, you
Yes.
know, but the Bible says all things work for the good, you know,
Absolutely.
and so we have a work to do, and it's going to it's going to work out. It's going to work
Absolutely.
out. So, Miss, when
Absolutely.
I'm going to let you have the last say. Um, Definitely want you to leave us with something, whatever that's on your heart, and give us your information where that people can work with you or just follow you on your social media platforms and things like that. And while you think about that, to my listeners, first of all, thank you guys for hanging on in there until the end. I told you guys I was going to tell you how you can win $100. So I'm going to tell you. So in order to win $100 from the podcast, you have to enter our super subscriber contest. And what is that? It just means you subscribe to all of our platforms. Subscribe to our YouTube page, our Facebook page, and our Spotify podcast. And after you have subscribed to all three, then text the word WIN, WIN, to 866 326 0730. That's 866 326 0730 to qualify to win $100. The contest is random and the contest is ongoing. So I can pull as many names as I want, as much $100 I got to spare, you know, so you can win at any time. So again, just join our super subscriber contest, and all you have to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, which you do anyway because you're watching. Subscribe to our Facebook page where you want to do that anyway, so you get all the good information that we're not able to share on YouTube, and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify so that you can listen on the go. And then after you've done all three, text the word WIN to 866 326 0730 to qualify to win $100. So, and that's that. So, Miss Wynette, I'm going to let you have the last say. First of all, again, let me say thank you so much for being on. Thank you for sharing your story with us. Thank you for the conversation, you know, because it's a conversation I haven't had in a while. And I think this is as much needed for me as it maybe was for you to have. So, again, I thank you for being on. I appreciate you for taking out the time to share your story with us. And the floor is yours.
Thank you so much again for having me. I really, really, really appreciate it. Truly appreciate it. Extremely grateful. And so I just want to share this last thing with the listeners today. The time is now to create your dream for it to become a reality. It's time to shift our minds to that mindset that we need in order to transform. Your transformation is going to be beautiful. Know it, believe it, so that you can receive it. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Richardson Speaks. Definitely don't forget to follow me there. You can find me on YouTube at Richardson Speaks. I would love to just connect with people. Listen, I'm going to continue to share my story, share my journey, because I want my transformation to be an example for you so that you can believe in your transformation. Thank you so much. I appreciate it and looking forward to connecting with everyone. Take care.
All right. And there it is. So, to all my listeners, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. I am your host, Earnest James, and our mission is to help people to deal, to heal, and to fulfill, to deal with your problems, to heal from the pain, and to fulfill your purpose. So, until next week, we will see you guys later. Be blessed. Hey guys, I know you're enjoying the podcast. However, don't forget to join our text line at 866 326 0730. That's 866 326 0730 in order to receive text messages with new events and things that is going on and new episodes as they release. All right, see you in a minute. Thanks for listening to the Deal to Heal with E. James podcast. Remember to listen, like, subscribe, and share. This episode has been brought to you by Deal to Heal Teas. Put some inspiration in your situation. Wear an inspirational tea and be inspired all day. Let's go to dealtohealteas.myshopify.com. Remember, our mission is to help you to deal, heal, and fulfill. Deal with your problem, heal from the pain, and fulfill your purpose. Thanks for listening.